Well, I had a short presentation. Actually, it's not that short, but it's about how to make a comeback. At least part of it is about how to make a comeback. It's nice to know, right? And also, it's when I first did this, and these slides are really old. We've grown from there, and I just pulled it off my hard drive, but they're a little funky. But when I first did this presentation, I called it The Anatomy of a Fall Down. And I did it on Wednesday night, and there was a huge crowd there, like double what there usually is. And I said, what are you guys all doing here tonight? Because there's a kind of fascination with, what happens if, or how do you slip in your practice of devotional service, and how might you think about it if that happens, or what measures could you take to make a comeback? I thought it was more positive titled, How to Make a Comeback, anyway. So there's several parts to it. This is a few of the general ideas. You don't have a clicker for me, do you? Okay, I'll just go like that. So Prabhupada writes, this is a regulative principle. One should not fall down from one's exalted position. We're parts of Krishna, and Krishna is the most exalted. We have an origin that is divine, and we profane ourselves when we cohort with the material energy. It's beneath our dignity, actually. And getting association with pure devotees instills in us this sense that I shouldn't dabble in the material world, and let me come back to my original position of dignity as a servant of Krishna. So Prabhupada once said, it's a statement he made, you're not sufficiently afraid of Māyā. And this is a principle, being a little afraid of Māyā, that's important. You'll find some deep commentary about this in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, about the appearance of Krishna, when Devaki was afraid of Kamsa. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses that as a jumping off place to talk about how her fear of Kamsa destroyed the last vestiges of attachment to the material world. Not that she had any in the first place, but the fact is that in the Leela, she's showing by example. And the 6 sons that were born of Devaki and then summarily killed by Kamsa, they represent Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mada, Moha, and Matsarya. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when we have some fear of Māyā, then these 6 enemies, our 6 enemies, are killed by that fear of Māyā. There is a meme, this is a meme of course, of the hapless soul who thinks I'm fine. And the Bhagavatam says there's 2 people who feel fine. One is the Paramahamsa and the other is the fool. And everybody else in between who's decided that they're going to make advancement in devotional service feels some anxiety until we become purified. So we should worry about Māyā. And this is attributed to Thomas Jefferson. I've done some research into this quote, and it might be wrongly attributed. Some people dispute the fact that he said it. I'm just giving that disclaimer. In any case, whoever said it gave us a really powerful mantra. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. It means if we want to be free and not get snagged by the material energy and be one of the other hapless souls who's caught in, as Prabhupada uses, the snare of material nature, we have to be vigilant. And vigilant means awake. It comes from the word vigil, which means awake. We have to stay awake and realize there's consequences to everything that we do. So we should beware of Māyā. That's a lyric from a song written by George Harrison. When he became a devotee, he wrote many songs, and one of them includes the lyric, "Beware of Māyā." So Māyā presents a package. It's not that Māyā is completely generic, but for each one of us, Māyā gives a perfectly suited package for each person. Kind of like if you go on YouTube and watch anything niche or anything, you'll notice that your feed starts populating with the exact same subject. Does that happen to you or just me? If you look up climbing ropes for climbing a mountain, next thing you know, there'll be advertisements everywhere. There'll be little movies about people climbing mountains and everything like that. So Māyā responds to our ideas about the material world and then starts giving us, you want this? You want that? How about this? How about if I put this and that together? And both of them, and no, a little more like that, and tries to come up with the perfect package for us. And Māyā can sneak into our life. Māyā means that which is not. And for those who are awake, they see Māyā as somebody who's in Māyā. They notice that they've been captured, but for those who are captured, it's very hard to even see what's happening. So the first, can you go back one or two? Yeah, how Māyā sneaks in. So this is how Māyā sneaks in. And she's looking to get in. And the first way that Māyā can come in is when we become prideful. That opens the door. Come on in. Next, laxity. If we become lax in our sādhanā, in our practice, we let our guard down, we're not vigilant. Then, it's an invitation for Māyā. Yeah, it's no big deal, come on in. And the third one is justification. Welcomes Māyā as a permanent resident. When you justify your condition, make excuses for the way you are. Oh, it has to be like that. It's not my fault. Dog ate my homework. The sun got in my eyes. So they're risky attitudes that open us to this peril. And here's one of them is, I'm advanced. When things like that, we're opening ourselves. This is pride to Māyā coming in. Another one is, I am liberated. I can cut corners. This is entitlement. This idea that, well, I've done this long enough, therefore it's not important for me to do it. Everybody else can do it, all the neophytes or whatever. I've been here 6 months, so it's not so important. I'm independent. That I shouldn't follow all those Mangalarti going, and they're just sheep. So I'll do my own thing and be independent. So here's how to lock the door on Māyā. Would you like to do that? All right. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This one did come from Benjamin Franklin. I found it was rightly attributed. And incidentally, he started the volunteer fire department. So the two things kind of go together, don't they? Anticipate there's going to be a fire and make sure you're prepared. I didn't put my thumb up. You're just like, okay, go. So if you change your attitude, and Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction that the quality of your attitude will determine the quality of your devotional service. So that old saying, attitude is everything, that applies in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. Does anybody here have an attitude? How do you know? What does attitude mean? Researchers, give us the definition. Unless it's on the next slide. I might have already thought of that. Nope, go back. Let's hear what attitude means. You're going to like this. Give her the mic, yeah.
Attitude is a noun which means posture or position of a figure in a statue or painting. It comes from from Italian attitudine, which means disposition, posture, also aptness, promptitude. From late Latin aptitudinem.
It's not the definition I'm looking for. Search for another one, please. Attitude. That's a very technical, artistic, in the context of art. It has something. The definition says something about it's a fixed way of thinking and seeing the world. Do you find that one? Yes, you got it? I got it here. You've got the art dictionary. Okay, go ahead.
The sense of a settled behavior reflecting...
Say it more clearly and loud.
The sense of a settled behavior...
The sense of a settled behavior...
Reflecting feeling...
Reflecting feeling...
Or opinion.
Or opinion.
By 1837.
So attitudes get calcified. We get them from association with others. And, of course, everyone has an attitude. It's the way you look at the world. And adjusting your attitude makes all the difference in the world. Oh, sorry, I should do this. So here's some safe attitudes that protect you. I'm not liberated. Everyone repeat after me. Yeah, that'll help. Okay, next. I am never above chastisement. I live to be corrected. Turn to a friend and tell them. You can tell that to your parents, or Okay? I am the servant's servant a million times removed. I wear trinadapi suniche na as a garland around my neck. Now here's the part where if you slip in your practice of devotional service, whoops. Discouragement is Māyā's tool. If you slip and then you take your sense of guilt, woe, and a general malaise and discouragement, it's one of the way Māyā keeps you from getting back up again. So here's how to make a comeback. Don't go away. Somehow or other stay close to association of devotees, and even if you feel like your practice isn't the same as it was before you slipped, you just pick it up wherever you can and keep going. And next is to own the problem. Don't make excuses and say it was somebody else's fault, because ultimately, in any self-respecting, self-help author or guru anywhere in the world will tell you the same thing. If you don't own the problem, you can't fix it. The next one is the most important, and Prabhupada mentions it in the Bhagavad Gita in the verse Sri Prabhati Dharmatma, and that is to chant constantly. He says chant without stoppage. So if you slip, start chanting and don't stop. Just keep going. Nama parada yuktanam namanyeva harantigam. Feel regret but not depression. That's from the verse Jatashradama Katasu. I mentioned it the other day. And at the end the verse says Gariyan. You can feel a little bit regretful, but not so much that you walk around, woe is me, and you use that as an excuse not to keep chanting. Should it be taken only in the same amount that you use hing for cooking, which is so little that you can't even see it on your fingers. Because if you use more than that, then you should be drummed out of the movement. Okay. Next is to think Failure is the pillar to success. And this is something Prabhupada writes in the light of the Bhagavad. And I'll read you the purport another day. It's a very encouraging concept, and that is, if you slip, if you make a mistake, it's not necessarily detrimental, Prabhupada writes. He said it can become the pillar to success, and I've seen that many times, and seen it in myself. When you own the problem, and then you make a comeback, you feel stronger, and you have a clearer idea of how Māyā works. Encouraging words. Would you like some encouraging words? Before you go, have prasadam and take rest. Here you go. Albert Einstein. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Isn't it nice to think that tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it yet? So fortify, keep yourself spiritually fit. And you notice if you let yourself go physically, then it's really hard if you have an accident or you get sick. It's much harder to come back. So similarly, spiritually, it's better to, like I always like to say, it's better to stay in shape than to try to get in shape. And if you stay spiritually strong, knowing how hard it is to pull yourself out again, it's a better strategy. You already know it's the right thing to do, so don't fool around. Stay spiritually fit. Make sure you have physical strength. These are from Prabhupada, 8th canto, purport about Gajendra. Make sure you have physical strength. Make sure you have enthusiasm. And make sure you have central power. And also, as we've talked about with goals, and one of you mentioned about you said you like the idea, do what you can. Start with what you can do. Because there is a mentality that if I can't do everything, then I won't do anything. Step by step, whatever you have to do, you can make a comeback. And comebacks don't necessarily mean there's some big fall down. It can just be you're chanting japa and you realize that you're not listening anymore. So how do you make a comeback? A little bit at a time. Just try to hear one mantra or 3 mantras in a row. The material nature is unlimitedly distracting and is always pulling us away. So to make comeback, these all pertain to situations that happen moment to moment. These are 3 admonitions that Prabhupada gives about sādhanā. Strict, serious, and sincere. And he writes this in the purport to 2425. Keep your eyes trained to spot offenses, not in others, but in yourself. Even if one has no desire for it. So in the light of the Bhagavad, in a purport I promised I'll read you, Prabhupada mentions how if you're sincere and you take the devotional service, and then you become wayward, said the power of what you've already started will act on you. And he writes, even if you have no desire for it, the devotional practice that you've done by Krishna's mercy will come back for you. And even if you don't want it, it will pull you along. Let's hear it. Is it seemingly from this? Okay.
Devotional service to the Lord never goes in vain. Just as the right moment, the result of one's particular devotional service will come, even if one has no desire for it. One should not be discouraged in the discharge of devotional service. Failures may not be detrimental. They may be the pillars of success.
That's encouraging, right? Only 2 people thought it was? All right, go ahead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So beautiful, isn't it? The holy name's just beautiful. And we keep chanting the holy name and just from your mouth to your ear. Cancel out the brain, just keep going. Krishna will take care of everything. Any reflections? Yes.
Haribol? Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I was thinking about this, like the topic of this presentation a little bit while I was writing my goals today. More specifically because of your lecture yesterday, I felt that these were probably some of the best goals that I've ever written. But what sort of gets into my head when I write goals is that I've had this habit of not being super consistent and constantly being in the phase of trying to make a comeback. So let's say I set a goal for the year. Maybe I'm consistent for like 2 months, and then after that, not so consistent for a bit, and then I'm trying to make a comeback, and then it maybe is consistent. It's a cycle that repeats itself. And so that, I guess, almost fear is in my head that, like I was thinking about it even when I was writing the goals today, that I don't know how likely it is that I'll stick through with these. So how do we sort of...
Well, as far as I'm concerned, progress is just a series of comebacks. It's just like if you're standing on a balance beam, you're constantly coming back to the center. It's not like you're perfectly still. It's impossible. Even as you get better at it, you'll find that the muscles are twitching somehow or other. I don't know how they do that, but they figure out how to stay on the beam. And balance isn't about staying perfectly still. It's knowing how to pull back to the center. And if you have, when we write goals and we have a clear idea of our priorities, we know what to pull back to. You're going to get knocked off. It just happens. And there are ways in which you can get on streaks that go for long periods of time, and then you find inexplicably that you're somewhere else, or by just course of nature, or even Krishna's arrangement, as talked about by Priyavrata. He had this whole plan that he was going to go off with Narada Muni and be a renunciate, and then all of a sudden, all these GBCs showed up and said, no, we need a temple president, and you're it. And next thing you know, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport, based on the Acharyas, it said sometimes Krishna intervenes in your plan. So you sincerely make your course based on what you know is right and what you want to do as a service to Krishna. But then you have to be a little flexible, be like water and go around. It's one of the mantras that I use all the time. We came across it, actually it sort of evolved from our service that we were doing during the pandemic, and that is workarounds bring turnarounds. And there's a way that I'm always thinking that, okay, it's in the making the comeback where you find a semblance of steadiness, because I don't know anyway, I made the case. And if you think of it like that, you readjust the way you think about it. You don't have to be afraid that you're not going to be perfect, because you're not. And the material nature will constantly be changing, but if you keep pulling back and be satisfied that you know how to make comebacks minute to minute, day to day, week to week, month to month, there is a way that you get stronger by doing that. So I would just say feel free to keep making comebacks. And then you can lessen the intervals, shorten the intervals. Divyanam's up, so we got to stop in a minute. Okay. Go ahead. Last point. Then you have a 3-minute kirtan afterwards, because you have to end with the holy name. Go ahead.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, you may.
So one of them was keep yourself spiritually and physically fit, and you mentioned that if you're not if you're not physically fit, it becomes much more difficult to make a comeback. And so
that was it was more a metaphor for spiritual. There is a case for being physically fit. We talked about how Prabhupada did the best he could by walking every day and getting massage and also eating properly. So that's not nothing. That's yuktahara viharasya. That's right there in the Gita. Krishna says, don't eat too much, don't eat too little. And So I was just comparing that. I was comparing physical fitness. It's easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape. So also spiritually, it's easier to just stay spiritually fit than it is to try to make comebacks.
Got it.
In other words, you might just say, well, if I know how to make a comeback, then what's the difference? The difference is that you lose opportunities. Better to be there and stay. As I said the first night when we met, it's better like with investing, just stay in the market and don't get out. And I noticed it on Parikram in Govardhan when I used to be racing everybody on the marg. If somebody stops for a break, they're way behind by the end of the Parikram. So we could do more of it. We'll just have a few minutes of kirtan to end.